What a day to be alive. Welcome to Rise Up with Rick. We are passionate about helping you extract the most out of every day and exploring and enhancing all things physical, mental and emotional well-being and performance. We are brought to you by runners.com. That's runnez.com, as well as rickmirabella.com. Radio, let's launch now.
G'day and welcome to Rise Up with Rick. Now today, I'm up and about. I love this bloke. He's I tell you what, he's a professional boxer now. Kane Watts has done it all. Very, very, very accomplished footballer, okay, back in the day. Still has a bit of a kick here and there now and then, but he's a very, very accomplished professional boxer. 22-5, what's he?
23-5.
23-5. I apologise, I took one off you there. He's done it all. He's had massive, massive fights all over the world. He's fought for world titles. He's owned his own business. He's a father of two. He's a beautiful, beautiful man. And he's joined me today just to go through his life and a bit of his mindset and structure in life and what makes him tick. I welcome Kane Watts.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Pleasure, Plum. I appreciate you. You've just got off the phone. You've had 3 phone calls in 5 minutes. Now, they're plumbing business?
Yeah, mate. Yeah,
he's running his own plumbing business. Give it a plug.
Yeah, we're Watts Bayside Plumbing is the name of the company, and we pretty much do all aspects of plumbing, mate. And we've got 10 boys under us at the moment, and
it's full on. So when you're growing up and you're watching, say people like Wattsy, you grow up watching on TV or Foxtel, and young kids out there that follow boxing and combat sports would know him for sure. And you think, like, it's just amazing. It's all encompassing. It takes up every second of your life. It does. But I've known Kane from a distance to always run businesses while doing it, which is phenomenal, really. Plumbing businesses, you've owned gyms. So you've always really been...
I've pretty much, throughout my whole career, I've always had my business going in the background, and yeah, I've had to juggle training and fights and travel, all that sort of thing around work as well. So
some would say that makes you, because it obviously resilience and just keeps you focused, and you just have to make it work, because if you don't take those windows of opportunities to train or get stuff done, businesses, now family and everything else you got going on, it really does... You'll miss a day, or you miss 2 days, but I know you don't miss a day. So love that. Now, I mentioned before, he's fought for world titles. He's fought Daddy Green in front of millions and millions and millions of viewers. He's fought on the biggest stage of all, in the highest level you can get. And most would say, possibly the hardest sport on earth, especially lead-ups to this kind of stuff. And then you're going in the ring for 12 rounds with some bloke trying to kill you, and you've got to be good enough. Where does this even come from? Now, I've mentioned football. You're a very good footballer and other athlete, other sports. Where does it begin for Kane Watts? How does this even come to be?
Well, the start of my boxing career, I never set out to have a ton of fights. I'd always been pretty heavily involved in football, like you said. All I wanted to do growing up was play AFL footy.
He was very good. He was a very good footballer. I can attest to that.
You didn't see me playing the Super Rules last year.
I did mention you were still having a kick around. I knew there was a bit of Super Rules action.
Don't use it, you lose it.
It's very, very, very true. Nervous system. Don't use it, you lose it. Remember.
I'd sort of got to a stage in my football career where I was sort of lacking in what I was getting out of it, and sort of. Our fitness coach that year was a kickboxing trainer by the name of Chris Santos. So I was doing a lot of one-on-one stuff with him and a couple of other guys, Timmy Allen. And my grandfather got really sick at that stage. He was given not long left to live, and he was a boxer back in the day. So I'd always said that I wanted to have at least try one fight before he passed, and I trained up for that. I went from a football mentality where we drink Friday night, play Saturday, drink Saturday night, drink Sunday, and go to work on Monday. And then when I decided to have that fight, I just went into full lockdown. It was only me and my trainer for bloody 6 to 8 weeks. I trained up, I had the fight, and then after that I fell in love with just the whole process and lead up of what it took to build up to a fight like that. So After that, it just sort of snowballed over the years into what it
became was
in the
huge.
end.
It became huge. So your local football, growing up, very supportive, amazing family, the Watts family in Hastings in Western Port in Victoria here. And if you're out of Australia, Victoria, if you probably have heard a few of these shows anyway, and know us, football is everything. So Wattsy was a very, very good footballer. He played a bit everywhere, a bit of ruckman, ruckman. I remember I was saying my old fair that I remember playing against him. He used to get into me, and I was always very aware of where Wattsy was on the field because he knew how to hit people very, very well. Fairly, of course. Wattsy, where'd you end up playing your senior footy? Fairly most of the time. Fairly for the early 2000s.
I went from playing in the ruck as a junior up to 18s, and then my first year of seniors I went to ruck rover. So
inside
sort
mid.
of did.
Yeah, that's fair.
Did
very
the full
good.
180.
Perfect size for inside mid now. All right, boxing. So you mentioned your granddad. That's a beautiful story, and that's a real good purpose and connection and why. So I understand that. Your old man, very big part of your life as well.
Yeah, so I'd always done martial arts, or I did boxing for a little while when I was a kid. I didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, wasn't into it throughout my whole juniors. I only ever did it to sort of keep fit. I did taekwondo when I was real little. It really wasn't my thing. Then I did boxing, and I wasn't really into that either. And then I did kickboxing did that for 10 or 12 years, on and off in between football seasons, and
bit of basketball, very good basketball as well.
Before football,
very good basketball.
But basketball was my thing before footy, but yeah. So in between footy seasons, I did the kickboxing training to keep fit and spend time with Dad, obviously, and I never sparred or did anything, and then
it's crazy.
And then, I got to 21, and then, Chris Santos come on board at Mornington as the fitness coach there. And, we started doing a bit with him, and I still remember my first sparrer, but I'd always fancied myself out in the street a little bit, and threw one or two big shots, and then nothing happened, and then a couple more big ones come back at me, and I was like, fuck.
Where'd this come from?
This is not how the script's written.
This doesn't happen at night. Now, I was going to ask you that. Your first sparring, that was awesome. Your official fight. Now, how many amateur bouts? Excuse my ignorance here. Did you have many amateur bouts?
I had 2 kickboxing fights and 12 amateurs.
And then turned pro. Now, tell me about kickboxing or boxing. Your first bouts. Oh, we'll go amateur first. The first time you stepped in a ring, boxing, because it was a bit newer to you. Like, what are your thoughts there? Like, we go on to do amazing things that we're going to talk about. Thoughts first time? Are you still pretty?
My first fight, I fought a bloke by the name of Eddie Diesel at the Reggio Calabria Club. So this is like an Italian club up in Brunswick. Rolled up. It's down in the dungeon underneath. They're serving pizzas and pastas, and so it's an extremely daunting thing. You have to get there at like 11 o'clock in the morning. You weigh in, and then being a heavier guy, they stage the fights from lightest to heaviest. So they normally have like 20 or 30 fights on the day, and then my fight's like one of the last. So you sit there, you get there at 10, 11 in the morning, you're waiting around all day till 3 or 4 in the arvo, just sitting in the back room with other fighters.
And this is your very first time?
Yeah.
Sitting there?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a daunting experience, the amateurs, but yeah.
Tell me when you walk out in the ring. So at this stage, you're a cruiserweight still. Is it going cruiserweights in amateurs? Again, excuse me.
I was fighting in super heavyweight when I was amateurs. That was 91 and over. I used to fight about 104, 105.
Back then. And then you're fighting these blokes that have had a bit of experience?
Yeah. At the start, obviously, you coach matches you up with guys that like 1 or 2 similar sort of experience.
As to not get touched up. When did you feel a few amateur bouts and you go, Jesus, this is actually, I'm very, very good at this, and I actually really love it. When did you feel? When was the tick in the professional go? I reckon I might be turning pro here. And who gives you that advice?
Well, the main reason I turned pro was I got a bit disheartened with how the amateurs ran. I I'd fought a guy, Trent Rawlings, twice before. He was a big 6'5" African American guy, big, thick set, well built. I beat him twice, and then they had the Victorian titles.
Mm-hmm.
I was meant to fight him in the Victorian titles. If you win that, you get 10 of the Australian titles, and then they select the Commonwealth and Olympic Games team out of it. So I rolled up 15 minutes late to to the weigh-in, and they wouldn't let me fight, and he won on a walkover. So then he ended up obviously won on walkover that fight. He got sent to the Australian titles, won that, and then he come third in the World Games.
Okay.
I fought him before he went to the Australian titles. I fought him 2 weeks after that and beat him again.
Mm.
And they still sent him, and I was just like,
yeah. So no discretion.
Yeah.
There's no discretion there. And I guess this is what I want to get with your sport, and I guess professional boxing. You can make your own luck as well. So you're not relying on other people and politics and all the bullshit that goes with that.
Yeah, even though it's an individual sport, it's like any sport. There's a shitload of politics and crap that goes along with it.
So you're thinking at this amateur phase, you're thinking, well, why not Olympics, Com Games? And then as soon as that stuff starts to turn, is this that was the straw that broke the camel's back? To the professional.
I just started training with. I was training with the guy Jason Murphy then. But we'd moved to a gym where my current trainer and guy I've been with for my whole pro career, Ray Giles, was, and he hates the amateurs and sort of persuaded me into turning pro after that little incident happened.
Spend a bit of time on Giles. He sounds a cracker. Early 70s now.
Early 80s.
Early 80s. Jeez, there you go.
Yeah,
what a man.
He's
Tell me
an
a bit
absolute
about Ray.
machine, old Ray. He still rolls around, does jiu-jitsu 2-3 times a week, and
That's amazing. And that's why we'll be going for another 2 decades as well. All right, professional. Now, lead up to your professional first bout. Who gets you these fights? And then the lead up and the difference between being your first professional bout and amateur stuff.
To my first pro fight, I went from fighting at super heavyweight to cruiserweight. So I was fighting super heavyweight around 104, 105 kilo.
Yeah.
And then I had to get down to 88 kilo.
Spend a fair minute on this, mate. Like, how?
But that was thanks to old Ray. He got me onto a eating program and bit of a diet on how to drop it. So I dropped that amount of weight in 6 weeks, I think.
That's phenomenal, mate.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
And from there on, I just stuck around that sort of weight. So
high 80s, very low 90s, and so 91's the ceiling for cruiserweight for the listeners.
No, 90.7.
90.7,
200 pound in the old scale.
Is a cruiserweight. Very very competitive. As a novice, I know that it's a very competitive weight division, and I know that it's always got lots of good fights. Just from me buying Foxtel fights with mate, it's always very good. So cruiserweight is elite as it gets. First professional fight. How did that go, and where were you? And do you remember the scenery around it?
So I fought a guy by the name of Gary Armstrong up in Darwin. Yeah, so Brian Armatruda teed that fight up for me after Raid spoke to him and sort of said we need to turn this guy pro and get him out of the amateurs. So they teed this fight up in Darwin, and yeah, that was another next level daunting experience. Rolling up to a town where you're not familiar with.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Having to come in at a weight that I've never really had to fight at before. And going through, like, even as a youngster, I'd always battled with my weight. I think I was weighing over 100 kilos when I was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
I'd always fluctuated up and down with my weight a fair bit.
So 6 weeks, you've dropped 14 kilos, number one. You're coming all through this sport. It's still relatively new. Like, I know kickboxing for a long time, but a very new sport. Professional fighting, and this is what it's all about now. You get there, walking out in the ring. Did you have a song yet?
Nah.
Were you sugar cane yet?
Nah.
None of this stuff yet?
That.
First bout. How'd it go? Take the listeners through the first 3 minutes, the first round. Look, what are you doing out? What are you doing out there?
We had Paulie from Fat Pizza doing the ring announcing that night.
Google if you're a bit young.
we'd was that like an old Italian club up in Darwin as well?
There's a theme here.
Yeah, the old Italians.
Yeah, mate, I know them, believe me.
Yeah, so it was a bit rough and rowdy up in Darwin. I don't know.
I can imagine. I've been to
up there
Darwin.
before,
Mitchell Street, it goes well. Yeah, so look, you're on your path.
There's a good story with that, actually. I was, so we flew up there, had the weigh-in, then the next day was typical Darwin heat, but humid and 35, 36 degrees. So I was sitting in my hotel in the air conditioning for a while. My dad and my trainer were downstairs. So I went down about 3 or 4 in the arvo because I hadn't seen them all day, didn't know what was going on. I rolled down and we were staying at like a backpacker hostel. And my dad and trainer were sitting there, bloody half 3/4 cut, sitting there drinking beers,
sculling schooners,
trying to pick up bloody few of the local backpackers,
a few of the Europeans just rolling through Darwin and Mitchell Street. Was it trainer Ray Giles or someone else?
No, it was Jason Murphy.
Jace having schooners, and the schooners go down very well in Darwin, don't you? Yeah, that's fantastic. Hey boys, I've got a fight tomorrow. I've actually got to try tonight. I've actually got to fucking tune in here, boys. They got enough of this rubbish. Is someone
and then we had after the first round, Jason was obviously coaching and Dad was helping him in the corner. And they you come down the corner, sit down, they pull your mouth guard out and they give you a bit of a spiel on where you're going wrong and what you could be doing right. And then they get up, seconds out, and put the mouth guard in. Like, Dad, put my mouth guard in. He's like looking around for it. It's in your fucking hand, you idiot.
little teething problems first up. That's the thing. Like, yeah, a couple they taste good. Yeah, you forget
that was Dad's first and last experience in the corner.
I might just sit you out there for now, but that's awesome, buddy. That's a great story, mate. You're in your first professional bout. At least it was laid back. At least it was laid back, brother. There was no anxiety around the Watts camp. Don't worry about that. They were relaxed as. I love that. So this whole era in your life, professional boxing, the training, you clearly loved it. Some of your, what was your favourite type of session, and what was some of the hardest type workouts in this early phase as you're transitioning into becoming the beast you became? They're all questions off the cuff. We've done no planning, by the way. I'm just asking.
It's interesting because the boxing isn't. You're not trying to come up with new ideas every week. It's a monotonous thing that you have to do over and over to become second nature, and that comes along with like our fitness training as well. Like if I could tell you the amount of laps I've done around Albert Park and bloody the tan, that was my thing. The C bars in St Kilda there,
love it.
So I've spent hours and hours steam room, hydro spa out in the bay, training up top in the gyms up there. But yeah, that'd be my thing. I'll go around, I'll do laps around the tan or laps around Albert Park, and then I'll be back into the C bars there for sort of recovery work.
How many days a week on the pads and gloves? Was it daily? Every day?
6 days a week.
6 days a week in the gloves on.
Yeah, so we used to have Saturdays off.
Saturdays off.
Yeah,
fantastic. Because it's good. Like people out there, and that was a theme the whole way through your pro career.
Pretty much.
6 days of the gloves on, and that is repetition. And
that isn't one day a week. Like when I was heavily with work and everything, I'd get up at 4:35. I'd go to a morning session, just like running or something like that. I'd come back, I'd go to work or go set the boys up for work up until lunchtime. Then I'd go to St Kilda, PCYC or wherever we were training at the time. I'd do like a pad session or sparring. Then I'd go back to work after that. And then I'll go do like a recovery.
3 days. That's 3 days.
3 times a day, yeah.
So you're looking at, when you're in the peak, you're running a business still, you're looking at 20 sessions a week.
And then after that last session, I'd come home and I'd be sitting there doing bookwork till bloody 9, 10 o'clock at night.
I remember this story. A good mate of ours, a mutual friend of ours, I remember those stories back in the day telling me that. That's phenomenal. And the bookwork after 3 days and running, that's what it takes. And that's what I was saying before about the business and all the stuff you've always done. It's made you, like you said, you could have gone on different paths many a time, but it's made you just lock right in because you're so driven mentally that you didn't want any of these to not succeed, so you made sure you did. Whereas sometimes you haven't got that business or that drive. But phenomenal, mate. Like some of the people you end up fighting, there's no way they could have thought about that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so pro boxing. I mentioned your record off the top. I robbed you of a win. I'm sorry. 14 knockouts. Did I get that right?
13.
Where I've got one, but 13 knockouts, phenomenal. That's amazing in itself. Okay, so throughout this path, do the opportunities, the same promoter the whole time? How does it all work in this field? Because a lot of us watch it but don't understand.
I've had the same team throughout the whole journey. So
credit to you, because that's not common in this game.
It's a massive rarity.
Mm-hmm. In this game, it's 100. It's 100 to 1. So that's a credit to you and your team. Promoter. Does he seek the fights? How does he come to you? Look, when did you start going, geez, I'm actually starting to get a bit of a name for myself here. How does momentum build? And do you remember the moment, like there's a few big moments in the mid to late teens we'll talk about, but momentum before that, like how does it grow? When did you become Sugar Kane Watts and everyone wants you?
It's a funny story. The guy actually who gave me that nickname, Howard Lee, he throughout the amateurs he used to call me Kane Kilowatts, and then when I turned pro he called me Sugar. He actually passed away yesterday in his 90s, old Howard. So.
Howard Lee, I'm sorry to hear that. I remember him on radio as well. He was very good. He used to talk. He used to be guest and talk.
He was massive throughout the boxing.
Massive. Okay. Well, condolences to the Lee family. I wasn't aware of that. So that's beautiful that we've brought that up. But yeah, so Sugar Kane he's doing.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Pretty much.
And what a name it is too, like, to be fair. And the sugarcane train, what happens in life, like everyone just drifts through, and then you obviously follow Kane's journey for other people, and I do love the sport. And as growing up, would always get the fights on Foxtel. You always imagine, like, just obviously fiction and Hollywood and Rocky Balboa and all that stuff. You love it, and you just love I love the history and that. But what Sugar Kane was doing real stuff every single day. When did it start to roll and go, geez, I'm got a big chance at some big title fights here? Do you remember the moment? Do you remember the day that your promoter comes in and go, hey, what's he?
I can't remember the exact build up to it, but I remember the moment sort of when I had the first Australian title fight. It's a guy, Daniel Aman, well-credentialed fighter, and held the Australian title for many years. Yeah, that was sort of the moment I felt like that I was about to kick on. Yeah. And unfortunately, I didn't win that fight. I broke my hand in the first round. I fought 9 rounds with a broken thumb.
Doesn't augur well for success, but amazing. The stories of that as good as a belt. 9 rounds, broken thumb. Amazing, isn't it? And what did you get done on points there?
On points, yeah.
So Australian. Now you have won belts. Where was that? Where was the belt in that? There was the Australian title.
Won that. Then I won the state title on the next fight. Then I won the Australian title the next year.
Cruiserweight.
Yeah. And then year after that, I won the Oceania Cruiserweight title.
Big.
WBA.
Very big one.
Yeah, then I had a bit of a break, and then 2 fights after that I won another Oceania title.
The Oceania belts are huge. Is this when
that second one got me rated number 10 with the WBA in the world, and that elevated me to getting a shot at the world title over in Paris,
which we'll talk about in a minute. But remiss of me at the start. Clearly, I'm not across this game as much as some of the other stuff we interview, but what's he like? Top 10 in the world. Just have a listen to that for a minute. In one of the more, like, the boxing is one of the hardest games, if not the hardest game in the world, and there's no barrier to entry. If you're good enough, anyone can do it. There's no finance barrier to entry. Say Europe, America, it's all comers. So if you're top 10 in the world, you've mate, phenomenal. All right. Danny Green fight 2016. 2016? Yep, 2016.
2016, yeah.
It is, mate. Yeah, massive. How did that come to be? And where were you at life in this point? Because this is now starting to get peak fame.
I was right up there at that moment. Like I was the Australian champ at that moment. I was probably at that time leading up to it. That was like my pinnacle of happiness and where I was at.
Well, you train pretty hard, and that's the thing about this sport, like other sports, but less politics. Hopefully, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And you made all your own luck, mate. You're done everything really diligently. Like you said, you've kept the process the same the whole way through. Danny Green lead up. Danny Green in the lead up to the fight, in the weigh-in. Danny Green for those out of the sport.
I still remember the when it all come about. I was in Queensland, I think, with my promoter and a couple other guys watching other fights up there, and Danny actually rang Brian when we landed back in Melbourne, and that's when they sort of locked the fight in. He jumped on the phone to me. He was always a massive idol of mine throughout my whole career. I was at the Danny Green Mundine fight.
06? That was a good fight. That was the 06, I reckon.
Yeah.
Everyone in Australia would have had that fight on Foxtel, no doubt.
Yeah,
Massive.
so I was up in Sydney watching that. I remember buying a Danny Green t-shirt.
Amazing.
So
that's amazing.
He was on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, we'll put on a good show," and yeah.
Well, that they did. If you haven't YouTube and Google. Now this is going to test me, but it went 10 rounds.
Went 10 rounds. Went the distance.
It went the distance, and Wattsy was perennially tough, and it's like a movie where Danny Green is obviously Danny Green. He's a huge name in the sport, possibly the biggest name of the last 40 years in Australian boxing and world. And you got Wattsy, who at the time was on the way up, Australian champion, but probably out of the sport. Not many people, not the people walking down the street don't follow boxing, probably don't know the Australian champion, right? And then Plummer from Melbourne, all that stuff. And then as the fight went on, every round that went on, just Wattsy's name was just. It was like he just won his rounds. He did his thing, knocked down once or standing. I can't remember. Was it?
Yeah, it's standing 8.
Standing 8,
yeah.
But just as is his way, tough as a $2 steak, and then just fought the distance and put on one of the great shows and fights of the last 20 years. You would have got a lot of that. Would have changed your life a bit that next week.
Yeah, it was sort of hard to explain that because it was a pinnacle, obviously, in my career at that time, but there was a lot of disheartening after that and during it. How Danny performed and
go into that.
How he held himself.
Yes, go into that, mate. It was. I know all your fans and mates. Like I was. I think that.
Yeah, not that I'm disgruntled about losing or whatever. But just the way he conducted himself throughout wasn't what I expected of someone of that calibre.
If you think he'd have his time again, I'd hope he'd do things differently.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I think he was nearly 10 years older than you.
Yeah.
So, and a shitload more experience.
Yeah.
So
he was fighting at the Olympic Games when I was still playing footy and hadn't put on a boxing glove.
No, when you put it like that, and that's why I think it was like. I know there's a lot of sports and a lot of distractions these days in 2016 that was, but I think it was a modern day really good story.
Yeah.
And you were the huge PR win from that as far as marketing and fans. You would have won hundreds of thousands of fans from your...
There's videos on YouTube of the lead up of that fight. Like I obviously did the walkout, was waiting in the ring. He left me waiting in there for like 15 minutes. 15 minutes? Before he come out.
Yeah, disrespect as well.
Yeah.
Mind games.
Massive disrespect.
Yeah.
Before the fight, he refused a drug test. He wouldn't let me fight in my gloves, so I was gloved up, ready to walk out. 5 minutes before I walked out, they come in, cut the gloves off, and they put a set of gloves on with his name written on them.
Prima donna rubbish.
Just shit trying to throw me off.
And that's little things that we wouldn't know. Like, the public see the way he behaved and the way he went about it, but that's even worse. All that little thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, even that knockdown in the fight, like the punches clearly in the back of my head. The referee was calling. He spat his mouth guard out about 3 or 4 times. The referee wasn't calling shit when he was doing it, but when it was on my side, he was like deducting points, and so there was a lot of stuff that people wouldn't know or wouldn't recognise, and without being in the mix of it all. You
held yourself in great stature as always, and you copped all that stuff that we probably don't see. And you didn't whinge, and we're talking now 8 years later, so not to date this, but it's you've moved on, but you should be very proud of that night for one, and also the way you handled yourself, especially under those conditions, which I didn't even know, to be honest. How was the aftermath those next few years? National champs still, Obviously, you got fights coming to you. How's the world title bout come to be? I know in this period of time you go through a bit as well. So tell us about the next few years pre-COVID.
Yeah, well, after that fight, I'd just come into a new relationship, which was the mother of my kids, and I thought my previous partners have always sort of pegged me down and haven't really been sympathetic to like the lead up of fights and stuff like that. So she was someone who had been in the media before that I thought would understand what it takes and what you go through leading up. But yeah, that was sort of wasn't the case after a little while. So I had to deal with the come down of a massive fight like that, which I'd never experienced. And then, yeah, going through a bit of a traumatic relationship as well, sort of that. So I had one fight after that, 2 months after, and then I didn't fight for like 2 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I went into bit of a depressive state throughout that period. Then I finally got myself back and trained up, and I ended up having a fight in late or mid 2018, I think it was. And then I got the opportunity to fight for the WBA title again in early 2019, which I fought a tough guy, Plugger Joseph, from down Tassie way, which that was another great night. He's a very tough guy and put on a good show. Yeah.
Plugger Joseph just sounds like an old school pugilist. I love him. I already love him. Yeah, but you beat him, so that's good.
Yeah, and then after that, there was talks about this world title fight. So I was happy about that early 2019, and then I went through a period where I wasn't able to see my kids for 6-7 months. So that was a massive depressive state that I was in. I was working Monday to Friday. I'd come home Friday nights. I'd sit at home by myself, wouldn't see anyone all weekend. I'd just drink by myself all weekend. But hoping I didn't wake up for however long until that world title fight got locked in. And then I just did a 180 and sort of snapped myself out of it. I went over to Thailand and did a training camp over there. Got cleaned all my act up and just focused on that. So I think I lost 25 or 26 kilos in 6 weeks leading into that fight.
It's phenomenal.
There's a photo on my Instagram there of what I was when I first went over there and then fight night. Yeah,
we'll check it out. That's amazing, mate. Yeah, okay, that's full on. Okay, so the lead up to world title fight, which is for any athlete it's the pinnacle. Let's be honest, like we're talking to a world class athlete here. You lead up, you're in good shape, clearly, feeling good.
I was in good shape for that. I was probably not mentally the best I could have been.
Obvious reasons. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even before that, before the fight, I was warming up in the change rooms, and there'd been a lot of banter back and forth about how we're getting paid and when we were getting paid, and the guy I was fighting was a Armenian-born Frenchman, so they had, the Russian mob or whoever it was from over there come into the rooms, and they were meant to pay us half in cash before we went out. They come in and said, "You're not getting the money," or whatever it was. I was trying to warm up. All my team were in there, my manager, everyone, and they're asking me. They go, "Oh, do you want to go out?" Or I'm like, "Fucking." I've just taken 3 months off work, which I'd never done before a fight before. I've just flown the other side of the world. I'm fighting for a world title, which is every fighter's dream. And you ask me this, and I was like, you can see me. There's a video on YouTube when I'm walking out to the ring, and I'm just looking up in the air. I was off with the fairies, like.
Fuck you! That's a big year.
Yeah.
That's a big year, mate. So you're walking out to this world title bout. You get in the ring. Can you compartmentalise then and dial in, like dial right in, or is there lots of stuff? Look, it's a hard one to remember. I know you strike me as a kind of bloke that can, but that's a traumatic year. For
you
anyone.
can dial in, but he's still not
Yeah.
fully present.
Tell us about the fight.
Yeah, well, but he only just got beaten probably a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that? How many years?
Yeah, 5.
5 years on before he lost his title. So
It's pretty good credential. So,
I was doing well throughout the fight. I felt like he was obviously landing a few more shots than me, but his headshots or anything weren't bothering me. And then I just copped one in the liver, and if you put $1 million in front of me, I couldn't have went over to get it. I was just.
That's amazing, mate.
I had to do a
Good description.
I had to do a piss test after it for a drug test, and you have to weigh out 200 mil, and like I was there for 5 hours. I think I couldn't
get it out.
Nah. I'd piss out like 20 mil at a time, and
yeah. Phenomenal. That's a great way to describe it. Like, you're one of the toughest units walking the world, and you could not pick up $1 million if you had to. What was your back on this box, on the craft of it? What do you reckon was your one wood or your major strength as a boxer? Look, from a craft perspective. I know not your toughness. Yes.
Probably my strength was my strength. I was physically
strong, mentally tough.
Physically, probably bigger than a lot of the guys, because I'd walk around at say 100 to 97 kilos, and then I would cut down that 10. I remember one of my fights. So the day of weighing, I was 6 kilos over in the morning. I went and sat in the sauna at the sea bars for an hour, and I lost like a kilo and a half. So after that, I went and put the Thai boxing liniment, the DP'd on.
That's so good. Yeah.
Olive oil, Vaseline over the top, a full like vinyl sweatsuit, and then tracksuit pants and a beanie on. It was a 36-degree Melbourne day. I went and ran 2 laps around the tan, and then I drove home from there with the seat heater and car heater on,
fucked.
as hard as I could.
Yeah,
I think I lost 6.5 kilos in 2 hours.
Not advised, but when you're a professional boxer, that is jockeys and boxers. They're the two.
That was the worst I'd ever done my weight cut, and
well done. You got it.
I never did that again.
The tan's 3.8k for those listening out of Victoria. 3.8 times 2 in all that shit.
And I after the weigh-in, I made weight. I went and flew it and ate up, and then I ended up being 10 kilos heavier the next morning. So
how do you? I know a few jockeys, and you're definitely the most credentialed boxer I know. How do you feel 24 hours later after all of that? How do you come down?
I felt all right. Not at my
sharpest.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, mate. Like, I know we're talking, and you're on the tools, and you had 3 phone calls about work just then. Like, you just get on with your life. COVID era. After all that, you've just fought for the world title. You're still going through a lot of stuff. How did you go through that COVID era as an athlete, as a father, as with all the other stuff going on?
Actually, I know COVID was a nightmare for a lot of people. COVID, I was able to travel wherever for work.
Mm-hmm.
I had keys to the gym, so I was allowed to train because I was a professional athlete.
Great.
It was probably the only thing that was missing, that I wasn't able to fight during that time. But
you had your structure.
Yeah, structure-wise and being able to train and do what I wanted. I think I had 7 or 8 fights cancelled throughout that period. Yeah. So I was meant to fight Daniel Russell, 6-7 times. It just kept getting cancelled. So I didn't have one drink or anything for 2 years throughout that period.
Yeah. Opposite of a lot of people in game. Yeah. That's good. But the structure and the routine is key. And I reckon your mindset, I think you're just so hardwired now that you just do it. But let's just say, currently as we're at the Earth, 2024, what's your average week look like now? And some of your mindset, we talk about reps give self-belief, we talk about a lot. We talk about just, you can't wait till you feel good to do it. You just got to move, you just got to do it. No thinking, just do. And don't wait till you're motivated, because that's a fucking fleeting word anyway. Some of your structure and mindset, and what's your average week look like right now?
Well, probably with the boxing and that, it's sort of reversed. So I always put boxing first before work, even though I showed up every day. I never let work get in the way of boxing. Though I've sort of spun that a little bit now. I'm still training spasmodically, but nowhere near the extreme that I was. But work's also kicked on a lot more too. So I've got 10 guys on now. My company's grown a lot bigger than what it has been, and yeah, we've got work spread out all over Victoria. So I'm putting a lot more time back into my kids and my work and my partner.
That's beautiful, mate.
Yeah, so...
Man, living down at Mornington on the peninsula, so you're back down the peninsula.
Yeah. Come
full circle, beautiful down Mornington. Any advice, not just for young athletes, but yeah, anyone first of all, anyone that's struggling a bit to find a groove or in a rut, or any advice for young athletes or young boxers or footballers out there, just some of your, I know it's off the cuff, mate, but you're pretty good off the cuff, so any advice for people, not just people struggling, but people who just want to get into sport or boxing?
Just don't get disheartened by the hurdles you face throughout, because no athlete has ever had one smooth run from start to finish. I think I was reading on social media yesterday something about Michael Jordan's mum, about she didn't have a go at the coach when he got dropped or whatever in high school. She didn't, but he carried on like a lot of people do now. Like, she just told him to work harder and keep pushing towards his dreams. So, like everyone, I've had a lot of speed humps, knockbacks or whatever. But yeah, the end goal, if you love the sport or what you're doing that much, you'll find a way to keep pushing through. Don't if you love changes from day to day, don't let it defeat you and end your career. So
love that, mate. I love that, and that goes for life as well. He's an incredibly successful businessman and family man and father. But obviously, boxer, great, that's awesome. But if you're waiting for that pinnacle or that moment, and you're living for that, then you're fucked. Like, you're going to go through so many ups and downs.
Yeah, I remember a couple of fighters back in the gym, like when I was starting out, they would never take the fight because they felt like they were never
ready.
They were never ready or at the point where I'm just like, just take it and do it. Like,
you're a fucker. That's why I love it.
If you're gonna be waiting for that perfect moment, it will never come.
Fuck, I love that, bro. Say yes and work it out later. Say yes and work it out. If you're always waiting and waiting,
I've never gone into one fight where I've felt physically and like at my peak of my game. I've always had a sniffle or a sore arm or calf muscle bloody playing up on me. I've always had something niggling. But if you can't push through that during a fight, then like you're going to come up against a lot more throughout the fight when you're actually in there.
And in life.
Yeah.
And in life, mate. So, great metaphor that, buddy. Like, we're using boxing as a metaphor, but I absolutely adore that. We've hardly spoken much for a long time. I love that I had no idea I knew he's standing as a person. I knew that he was going to bring good stuff to the table, but I've just been another fan watching him for a long time, and he's the way you speak, but the way you hold yourself in business, mate, is phenomenal as well. You just get it done. Last words, what's the future hold for the sugarcane? What's the future hold in business and family and the like?
Well, family, I've got a beautiful partner, Mandy, and my 3 kids.
Beautiful.
And so family, we've got a lot of exciting things happening. We've got a new property down in Mornington there. It's
fantastic.
Bit of land and some animals down there.
Oh, what do you got, brother?
I've got a miniature pony and a miniature donkey.
You got to be. I love that. I was just saying to Shell, I want a Shetland pony. There's not much room out here.
And a Labrador, but
cool. What's the lab's name?
Rosie.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, family life's looking good, mate, and work's kicking along all right. And boxing, I'm still ticking along, and there might be something later in the track that we might finish off on.
If I know Wattsy and I know boxing, there's always something around the corner. Mate, I really appreciate you. Like, I know you're so busy, and like I said, I texted Kano a couple of months ago. I said, mate, I'd love to get you on the chat. Like, I'm intrigued by everything you've done, and he was straight back. And like he said, he got all these jobs on the go around Victoria. He goes, mate, he's taken time out of his morning, so I appreciate that. I've got no doubt the reason we do this is only because I want people to connect that you would have connected hundreds of times in the last 50 or 60 minutes. And I hope that youngsters, but not just youngsters, like you could be in your 80s, and you're going to take a lot out of Kane Watts today. So you've done something today that's going to make you much better tomorrow. And as Wattsy says, just keep ploughing through and don't wait for the perfect time. Just do it now. What a magnificent day it is to be alive. Thanks, Kano.